that's a class of plant compound that's just famous for its antioxidant activity. CGAs show up in fruits, vegetables, teas, wine, chocolate, but coffee has them in really high concentrations. Green coffee before roasting is one of the richest sources of chlorogenic acid on Earth.
Did you know that coffee is actually the #1 source for antioxidants in the Western American diet because of how much we drink? Now, antioxidants are all the rage in the health and fitness community. We talk about them a lot, but most people don't even know what they are or what they do in our bodies to help us live a healthier, longer life. And they certainly don't know that the best way to get an antioxidant-rich diet is to drink healthy coffee every single day. On today's episode, we're going to break down exactly what antioxidants are, what they do to help your longevity and your overall health, and why coffee should be a staple in your diet if you care about health and longevity. With me from Purity Coffee, we have Chief Learning Officer Ildi Revi. How's it going, Ildi?
It's going great, Jordan. Looking forward to this conversation.
This is a deep one, Ildi, and I'm so excited to talk about the good compounds in coffee. But to start with antioxidants, we have to talk about what they are against, what that anti means when it comes to oxidation. So can you tell us first, what are antioxidants and what is oxidation?
Yep, that's exactly where we need to start. Think about what happens when you cut like an apple or an avocado and just leave it on the counter. Within a few minutes, it starts to go brown. That is oxidation. Or like iron, like I have an iron frying pan. When it gets wet, I get little bits of rust on it. Same thing. Oxidation is a chemical process where a substance loses its electrons to oxygen.
Oxygen is highly reactive. I remember that from chemistry class. And then
Right.
so everything around us, you leave a piece of iron out, like you said, it reacts to the oxygen and rusts over time due to that oxygen exposure. So the same thing is happening to us inside our bodies on a cellular level.
Exactly. Constantly. Every single second, your cells use oxygen to produce energy. And as a byproduct, they generate something called reactive oxygen species. They call it ROS for short. ROS are unstable molecules called free radicals, and they're missing an electron. So they go around the body trying to steal electrons from your cells, your proteins, even your DNA.
That actually sounds pretty intense. Stealing electrons from your DNA is a bad thing, I'm assuming.
Yeah,
right?
it
That's
damages
damaging.
it, just
Yeah.
like the rust on iron or the brown of an apple. So over time, that damage adds up. We call that buildup oxidative stress. And Jordan, it's been linked to virtually every chronic disease you can name: cardiovascular disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancers, certain cancers, type 2 diabetes, arteriosclerosis, and even depression and anxiety. So inflammation and oxidative stress are also tightly connected, and we know inflammation is connected to diseases as
Oh
well.
my gosh. So these free radicals are coming from our diet and our food, but also elsewhere, right? It's more environmental than just food.
Yeah, some are just produced by our bodies, just being alive. So your mitochondria make them as part of the energy production. Remember the mitochondria,
The powerhouse of the cell,
the
of course.
powerhouse of the cell. Yeah, but we also can pick them up from pollution, environmental contaminants. Processed foods are a big one. Ultraviolet radiation, stress, and even like strenuous exercise can do it. So just being alive, the world we live in throws a lot of them at us.
And so we have this kind of rust, cellular junk buildup that occurs and can lead to a whole host of diseases. And that's really why I wanted to nail this down for the listeners today, Ildi, because it is a big deal. It's actually kind of a huge deal when it comes to your quality of life, your quality of health, and your overall longevity. If you are somebody who's concerned with longevity, or if you or a loved one is predisposed to one of these conditions, like let's just take Alzheimer's or Parkinson's, right? If you're predisposed to that, it is very, very important. It could be an absolute game changer for your health to introduce an antioxidant rich diet to protect you from that. And specifically, the easiest way by far is to simply upgrade your coffee or start drinking coffee to a healthy coffee. So that's really why I wanted to drive this home for the listeners and let them know that
Mhm.
there's efficacy to this and we need these antioxidants in our diet. Ildi, can you talk about that? Why do we need these antioxidants? What stops this oxidation?
Well, that's what they are, antioxidants. It's the job description is right there in the name. So, antioxidants are molecules that can give up an electron to a free radical without becoming unstable themselves. They essentially sacrifice themselves to neutralize the free radical before it can damage your cells.
Wow. So are we creating these? Are these exclusively coming from outside sources? How does that work?
Partially. So, our body produces what we call an endogenous antioxidant system. They're working all the time. But, Jordan, here's the catch: the demand massively outstrips what we can produce internally. So, again, like pollution, processed food, stress, aging, just aging itself, they create more free radicals than your internal system can handle alone. So,
Thus, we have to supplement them. That's
exactly.
interesting. So it's kind of cumulative. I think we all know what you're describing, that cumulative effect of you're living in a city and you're breathing that air and there's brake dust, there's pollution, and maybe you're getting some pesticides from your diet, and those things add up over time. Let's turn the conversation then to coffee, because coffee is extremely special, not in just its antioxidant load that it delivers, but also the synergistic compounds within it.
And it's funny because people don't realize if you're drinking multiple cups of coffee that you're taking in these antioxidants, and they together, the load makes it the number one source that Americans get their antioxidants is adults is from coffee.
By far, right? So you're saying one serving of blueberries versus one cup of coffee is one thing, but most Americans drink between 3 to 5 cups, half plus.
Exactly.
So it's the accumulation of those 3 to 5 cups that puts it way above the rest.
Yeah. And the thing is we do it multiple times a day. And if you ever look at antioxidant charts,
Mm-hmm.
they have all these vegetables and foods on them. But again, there's like a wide range when you look at the numbers. And I think, why is there such a wide range? Well, it comes down to the quality
Yeah.
of the food. So this is where, when we focus on our coffee being high in antioxidant, not only picking the correct type of coffee, processing it well, organic, regenerative, but also roasting it to maintain antioxidants in different ways. And we'll talk about the compounds in a minute. So, again, the quality of the coffee you drink multiple times a day, year after year, that's where you're winning with antioxidants in coffee.
And I think everybody's experienced that, Ildi, where you have like a wild picked berry or a homegrown tomato versus the one at the
Mhm.
store. And what tells you that it's a higher quality food? It's your taste buds first. It's a
Absolutely.
completely different experience. And you're
Right,
like, oh my
totally.
God, what have I been eating? And I think that's kind of nature's way of telling you that's the quality that you're looking for. So it's important to think of coffee the same way. I think we settle
Absolutely.
when it comes to coffee.
And in coffee, it's not just like one antioxidant.
Right.
Roasted coffee has hundreds of compounds, and many of them have what we call antioxidant activity, and they work together. So there's this principle I'm going to come back to over and over in this conversation. I write about it in my book. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. So when you isolate a single antioxidant from coffee and take it as a supplement, you're often not going to get the same benefit as drinking the coffee in its entirety.
That's right.
It's the synergy of the compounds in the cup that's doing the real work. And we can really get into this. And that's something I've been really wanting to explain to people too.
That's right. And so I want to talk about those compounds specifically. Just to recap, we want these antioxidants in our diet because we're always undergoing oxidative stress. And these compounds kind of sacrifice themselves in lieu of our cells to take that stress. And therefore, we have a less disease filled, longer, healthier life. But what most people don't talk about, Ildi, is what these compounds are. Like you said, antioxidants is a huge category of organic acids and different melanoidins and things. We're going to get into it right now. Let's start with probably the most famous ones. The one that I hear the most about is chlorogenic acid. So let's talk about chlorogenic acid first.
Which we often abbreviate calling it CGA. So these should be the headliners in coffee. They are polyphenols. You've heard that. That's a class of plant compound that's just famous for its antioxidant activity. CGAs show up in fruits, vegetables, teas, wine, chocolate, but coffee has them in really high concentrations. Green coffee before roasting is one of the richest sources of chlorogenic acid on earth.
So what do these CGAs do when we consume them?
A lot. CGA are potent antioxidants and anti-inflammatory agents. So they combat the free radicals and the free radical damage that we're talking about. They help regulate blood sugar, cholesterol, and blood pressure. They support gut health, brain health, liver health, cardiovascular health. They've also been linked to lower risk of type 2 diabetes and fatty liver disease, certain cancers, and even to a certain extent longevity, although the science is still studying that. Coffee is considered one of the most important sources of antioxidant intake. And the chlorogenic acids, the CGA, are the reason for that.
So everything that oxidative stress is bad for, chlorogenics are beneficial for. That makes perfect sense to me.
The amount of CGA in your coffee depends on quite a few things. First thing is the species. We drink Arabica because it's sweeter. It's, in general, people consider it a better taste profile. Although there's the other species called Robusta that is catching up, and Robusta actually has more CGA than Arabica. But it also depends how the coffee's grown and how it was processed, how it's roasted, how long it's been sitting on the shelf. When we roast it darker, Jordan, darker roast destroys a lot of CGA. So if you're drinking coffee specifically for health benefits, the choices upstream matter more.
So should I be avoiding the dark roast if I'm health conscious? I know that's a loaded question.
Well, for CGA, chlorogenic acids, the darker roasts degrade the CGA, but it doesn't necessarily mean there's fewer antioxidants or antioxidant activities, because dark roasts have their own benefits. We'll get there in a minute. The point is just that the cup in your hand right now might have 10 times the antioxidants of the cup in somebody else's hand, even if they look and smell identical. So every choice along the chain either preserves CGA or destroys it.
So moving on from CGAs, another compound that I am seriously interested in and has real efficacious studies behind it is trigonylene. Can you talk about trigonylene?
Trigonylene is what's called a water-soluble alkaloid that is really abundant in green coffee. It is neuroprotective, antimicrobial, and it has its own antioxidant activity. But here's where it gets fun. When you roast the coffee, I love this, trigonylene partially breaks down, but one of the things it forms is niacin, vitamin B3. And then there's another compound I'm even more excited to start talking about in future episodes too, but we'll introduce it here, is a compound called N-methylpyridinium, or NMP. And this comes from the breakdown of trigonylene specifically.
Oh, I'm sure we could do a whole episode on this in the future, but you want to give us the 30,000 foot view of NMP. This is a new compound to me.
Yeah, and methylpyridinium is fascinating because it's almost exclusively found in roasted coffee, like nowhere else in the human diet. It's a powerful activator of something called the NRF2 pathway. The NRF2 is the master regulator of your body's antioxidant defense system. This is your natural system. So NMP basically tells your cells to ramp up their own internal antioxidant production. So coffee is not just giving you antioxidants directly, but it's also teaching your cells to make more of their own, or
Wow.
encouraging your cells to make more of their own.
Boosting your body's own ability
Mhm.
to defend itself.
Mhm. That's exactly right. So remember, coffee is full of hundreds of compounds. Some break down during roasting and others are created because those, as they break down, they like reconfigure themselves. And NMP is one of those compounds. And there's a study where people who drank a dark roast coffee rich in NMP for 4 weeks showed a 27% reduction in spontaneous DNA strand breaks in their white blood cells.
My
So
goodness.
this is like protection at the genetic level.
The cellular
And
level.
dark roasts have about 3 times more NMP than light roasts. So the light roast may have more chlorogenic acid, maybe retaining that, but this is where, when we talk about the roast, these are where choices come in for the roaster, the person roasting the coffee,
Mhm.
to decide what compounds do they want to create and which ones they're willing to sacrifice. And so we can create roasts with these decisions in mind.
And that's what really amazes me and what I'm most excited for. It lends itself to a conversation we had on a previous episode, which is roasts designed specifically for preventing certain diseases. That blows my mind. And Purity Coffee is doing that. I don't know anybody on the planet who's doing that better than you guys.
I want to talk about that very quickly, and that is
Please.
we're looking into it. We follow the science,
Right.
but there is so little research in the body. And again, remember, every person's body is different. So we can never really claim that a certain roast will do a certain thing, but we have a lot of testimonials from customers. It seems that what the science is telling us is happening in many people's bodies.
Absolutely. So I want to get on to more of these key players, ones that we've covered before, but I'd like to go into as well melanoidins and also diterpenes.
Yeah, well, so melanoidins are what makes coffee brown. We talk about green coffee is the raw coffee, and when we roast it, it turns brown.
Mhm.
And they're formed during what's called the Maillard reaction, which is the same browning reaction that happens if you bake cookies, make bread, toast your toast, sear a steak, whatever. So melanoidins are antioxidants. They're actually, oh, I love melanoidins. And the study of melanoidins is just in its infancy. But so antioxidants, antimicrobial, and prebiotics, meaning they feed the good bacteria in your gut. So they act as soluble fiber and they chelate metals.
Oh, interesting. You want to talk about what chelation means for the
Yeah.
audience?
They bind to metals like iron, copper, zinc, calcium, even aluminum, and they help your body manage them. Spent coffee grounds are used in soils to extract metals too that may be in the soil. So this matters because excess free iron in your body actually can generate more free radicals. And in the brain, accumulated metals like cadmium and manganese
Hmm,
have been linked to Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
that's interesting.
So coffee's melanoidins are like little sponges picking up free radicals and metal ions as they pass through the gut.
That's fascinating. And this is another compound that's rich in darker roasts. So again, it's not just about
Right.
don't roast out the good stuff. Some of the good stuff is created during the roast. That's amazing.
They what we call aggregate. They're like little Legos. They like get darker and darker, and they So you have heavier weight melanoidins.
Wow.
So dark roasts have less CGA, but they have more melanoidins and more NMP.
Uh-huh.
Different chemistry, different benefits. I'm not going to tell you light is better than dark or vice versa. They're
Right.
different, and it depends on what you're looking for, what your health goals are.
Well, it gets me thinking maybe I should kind of be switching off. And just as personal, as a consumer who's looking after my health, maybe I need to mix up, you know what I mean, my roasts, maximize the types of antioxidants in your diet. Just a thought.
Yeah, especially, if you want to focus on your gut or your brain or your liver. I would say for liver, most people would want a lighter roast because the
Mhm.
CGAs are known particularly to be very good
Good
for
for
the
the
liver.
liver, where some
Yeah.
of the other stuff might be opting for the dark roast. Very interesting. Now, we had talked about diterpenes on this show
Mhm.
before, cafestol, caweol. Talk about diterpenes and your opinion of what they do in the human body.
Okay, so just a reminder, these are the oils in coffee. They call it the lipid. When you have your cup of coffee and you sort of look in the light, especially if you've done a French press or espresso, you see the oil on the surface of your coffee. Those are the lipids. And diterpenes are powerful. They stimulate your body's antioxidant defenses. They have been shown to protect the liver. They inhibit enzymes that activate carcinogens. They do have a downside because they can raise LDL cholesterol. So, if cholesterol is an issue, something in your health goals to lower your cholesterol, use a paper filter. It traps almost 100% of them.
Only drink filtered coffee if
Mhm.
if you're wanting to avoid that cholesterol increase.
But if you want to
Mm.
really get all the coffee stuff into your liver, then you want to use a mesh filter or
I like
espresso.
French press, so that's perfect with me. And we're going to talk about some cutting edge science here in a second. But first, one of the most important points that I wanted to highlight during this entire show, loading your diet full of antioxidants is always a good thing. But there's one reason why coffee stands head and shoulders even above the rest when it comes to the antioxidant load and the antioxidant efficacy, which is because of caffeine. Can we
Mm.
please talk about caffeine and antioxidants together?
Can't talk about coffee without talking about caffeine, I guess. But this is a question we get a lot, and the answer is that no, caffeine itself is not an antioxidant, but, and this is really important, Jordan, but caffeine supports your antioxidant system. It doesn't neutralize free radicals directly the way CGA or melanoidins do. But the research has shown that caffeine effectively inhibits all three of the main reactive oxygen species. And it does that by enhancing the activity of your body's own antioxidant enzymes and by reducing how many reactive oxygen species you produce in the first place.
Mhm.
So caffeine isn't fighting the fire directly, it's more like making your fire department bigger and faster.
It is so important to realize this because, again, if we're talking about any other antioxidant source except for maybe chocolate, they're missing that caffeine element, which is going to play a huge role in the efficacy. That's big, Ildi, you know?
Mhm. Well, the thing is that your liver processes caffeine.
Yeah.
It produces metabolites from processing. There are three major ones, but the two that I want to highlight are paraxanthine and theobromine.
Mhm.
So theobromine itself does have antioxidant properties. Paraxanthine, on the other hand, inhibits inflammatory markers like TNF alpha. So even the byproducts of caffeine metabolism are contributing.
Wow. And
Mm.
again, there are people out there who are sensitive to caffeine, but if you're not, you should really be considering this as a supplement from a health perspective and get it from a natural source like coffee, like a healthy coffee.
This is important for a lot of people. If you drink decaf, you still get most of these benefits. CGA, trigonylene, melanoidins, diterpenes, NMP, they're all in there.
Right.
So decaf is not just coffee minus the buzz.
Right.
It's still a functional beverage.
Health
And
beverage. Yeah.
yeah, and that's why I feel it's really important. One of the things we take seriously at Purity, because we know how powerful caffeine is and how it affects people. So when we decaffeinate our coffees, we choose very high quality. We look for the highest quality coffees, fresh from the farm, send them directly to the decaffeination facilities where they're naturally decaffeinated. We know there's a difference in the way decaffeination is done and what makes one healthy or another. But also, it's again starting with the coffee that we start with.
Well, I love what you're doing, and you got to stay tuned, listeners, because there's a few new drops coming up. They've got a cold brew drop coming at Purity Coffee. So stay tuned. We've got some really good stuff on that as well. But Ildi, we need to make sure we make time for some of the new research that's come out around antioxidants. Can you tell us what you've been learning digging into the brand new cutting edge research?
So this is crazy. Just like 2 months ago, there's a journal called Molecules. So they pulled together more than 150 studies and quantified what coffee actually does to your body's antioxidant defense system. So we talked about how your body makes its own antioxidants internally. They're enzymes your cells produce on demand. Superoxide dismutase is what we would call a first responder. It grabs the most dangerous free radical, which is called superoxide, the moment it forms and converts it to a milder one, hydrogen peroxide. Then glutathione peroxidase comes in and finishes the job, converts that hydrogen peroxide into plain water.
Jeez.
One neutralizes the worst attacker. The other one cleans up the debris. And the NRF2 that we talked about before isn't an enzyme. It's the switch inside your cells that controls how much of these enzymes get produced. So when NRF2 goes up, the whole defense crew gets kicks into gear and
Wow.
you double your fire department. So in other words, coffee drinkers' cells from this study were producing more than twice as many of their own internal antioxidants as non-coffee drinkers.
That is
So
wild.
I know, right? So when you drink coffee, your body's own defense system more than doubles just from habitual coffee consumption. So that's
I knew
not
it.
just coffee handing you antioxidants, which it does, but it's coffee telling your body to manufacture its own and encourages it.
That's incredible. I knew it was good
I
for
know,
us.
crazy.
Talk to me about what was published in Nature Communications.
Yeah, this one should change how we think about decaf. The researchers took coffee drinkers, washed them out for 2 weeks, no coffee at all. Then they brought coffee back, half got caffeinated, half got decaf. They tracked their gut bacteria, memory, sleep, of course, mood, blood pressure, inflammation, a whole bunch of markers. And they found a couple of interesting things. Coffee dramatically reshapes your gut microbiome. So there are specific beneficial bacteria that bloom the moment coffee returns to your body. And that microbiome shift happens just as much with decaffeinated coffee. So the point of this is that it wasn't the caffeine doing it. It was the polyphenols and all the compounds that we just talked about. Your gut bacteria respond to those whether or not there's caffeine in the coffee.
Another argument for decaf.
But because decaf drinkers had improved sleep quality, memory, and physical activity, it was very interesting because caffeinated coffee improved different things, but the memory and sleep win came from the decaf. So if anyone's been told to give up coffee, decaf isn't a downgrade. It's It's actually a different lever with a different set of outcomes.
Mm,
We gotta stop disrespecting decaf
I
and
agree.
instead drink the freshest, healthiest decaf.
It's an important tool in the toolkit, and I am sensitive to caffeine. I have to watch it for my sleep intake, so I drink a lot of decaf. I got one right here, actually. But there was a third study you wanted to highlight that was just as crazy.
Yeah, there actually is a journal called Antioxidants. So they did a head-to-head test with whole coffee extract versus pure caffeine.
Hmm.
Okay. So we're talking the whole coffee, all the compounds versus caffeine, which people think is the magic thing.
Mhm.
It was like a nerve protection experiment. They had to use 100 times more pure caffeine to match what the whole coffee compound mix did.
Jeez.
100 times. So the experiments was done on something called Schwann cells. Those are the cells that wrap and protect your peripheral nerves. These are the nerves that especially get damaged with conditions like diabetes,
Mhm,
diabetic neuropathy.
mhm.
So, pure caffeine barely moved the needle on its own, but the whole coffee cocktail with chlorogenic acids, quercetin, vitamin E, all the things working together protected those nerves at a fraction of what the individual
Wow.
caffeine did. But here's the crazy thing, the extract they used was not even from a coffee bean, it was made from coffee silver skin.
Oh, wow. You explained that what that is for the listeners, coffee silver skin.
When we roast, so the coffee seed, first we have the coffee cherry,
Mhm.
and then it's got the fruit, which is very little fruit on it. Then there's a layer called parchment. It's a thick skin. Um, and that comes off, but then there's a skin on the
Hmm.
coffee seed called silver skin. And when we roast it, it roasts off. And a lot of roasters just throw it out. Like I use it on my garden for mulch. But so the silver skin, if you look at the coffee bean, if you get whole bean coffee, there's like a middle, a center cut.
Yeah,
And sometimes you can see there's still silver skin in there,
stuck in there.
especially if it's
Yeah.
light or roast. Every compound in the cup matters, even the byproducts.
Goes back to what you said, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, and, that
Mhm.
sums it up right there. So, Ildi, if you had one takeaway for the audience to walk away from this episode with, what would it be?
Yeah, it's the synergy. It's not just any one compound is a miracle. It's that dozens of compounds are working together. CGA neutralizes free radicals, and methylpyridinium turns on your antioxidant defense system. Melanoidins chelate metals feed your gut bacteria. Diterpenes protect your liver. Caffeine supports the whole thing. When they take these things out and create supplements with them, you're not going to have the same effect.
The magic bullet approach does not work here. And if you're somebody who's health conscious, if you're somebody who's looking after your own longevity or those of your loved ones and family, the best way to get antioxidants in your diet is to drink a healthy antioxidant rich coffee like Purity Coffee every single day. So I'd like to challenge you, listener, as I usually do. Ask yourself this week, do you know how your coffee was grown? Is it organic? How fresh is it? Is the roast right for you and your health goals personally? I think that's really important to do, Ildi.
Hmm. Every choice along the chain either preserves these compounds or destroys them.
That's exactly right. And what if I want to learn more and really dig deep into this stuff?
Grab a copy of my book, The Coffee Guide to Better Health, on Amazon or on puritycoffee.com.
That's right. And you can also go to circularhealthcoffee.org to find out more there. And listen, if you enjoyed this episode, if you learned something, took something away from this episode, please make sure to hit like, make sure you're subscribed, and share this episode with a friend. We love when you share the show. That's all for now. This is Ildi Revi and Jordan Rivers signing off, wishing you an extraordinary rest of your day. We'll see you next time on the Health First Coffee Podcast. Bye, everyone.